Hey guys, this is Jim Cadell with Tribe Coach, and today we're going to be talking about the Get Noticed theme. It's a particularly good theme for several reasons, and it's particularly a great theme for consultants and coaches in particular. And what I'm going to do today is walk you through the basics within this first episode, and in following videos we'll get into more detail on what and why and how this theme can be one of the best themes you've ever used if you're a coach and consultant in particular. Okay, as you see here, I'm going to use one of my clients as an example, Doug Soltis at DougSoltis.com. Feel free to go and check that out if you'd like. We've got some elements of this that are really going to work well if you're a coach and consultant in particular, and let me explain why. First of all, we've got a nice header. This header can actually be interchanged quite easily. As a matter of fact, we've got it set up so that there's several headers that will actually show up randomly. So particularly if you have other headshots, other areas, other things you want to show in here randomly, there's a great little automatic plugin that's already in the Get Noticed theme that will do that for you. Also, there's a nice little subheader area and a nice area to set up any type of extra material. This guy obviously is experienced at Northwestern Mutual, 3M, and Mead. So we want to let the people know right off the bat that this is a professional level site. This isn't just something that someone decided overnight to become a coach or a consultant. This guy's pretty established, and he's in the sales arena to be specific. Now, that carries me to the categories. Now, the categories will be the blog posts that you write, and we've got sales, leadership, relationship, and STP, speaking, teaching, and preaching. Now, these 4 categories were pre-set up by us. Whatever your categories are, whatever your niche market is as a coach or consultant, you can add those up at the top. And I think that's a nice level navigation that will help people to go in and find exactly what they're looking for. Now, when I say these are the categories for the blog posts, they also are very representative of another thing that we'll be using, which is podcasting. I'll be describing probably in a later episode, not this one. I don't want to get too far into detail in this episode. This is just kind of a general overview. But the Blueberry podcast plugin, and we use the Blueberry hosting service as well to host the podcasts for DougSoltis.com. And they coincide also with transcriptions of that blog post, of the podcast, that turn into blog posts. Of course, if you click continue reading, you'll get the entire one, including a download, which we'll add later, of the podcast within PDF form. On the right-hand side here, you have an opt-in box. Make more sales by discovering your character commitment traits. There's a downloadable PDF. There's an email address. First time you add that, sign this up. This is connected with GetResponse. You can connect this with any type of autoresponder service, Infusionsoft, Aweber, GetResponse, you name it. We can pretty much easily add that to the right-hand side. And, of course, recent posts. We've just started, so we've got our first post here, Rock Solid Selling, the pilot. And, last but not least, a very large area to add a nice photograph. You want to make sure, of course, with any photographs you use, that they are either A, your own, or B, something that is of free nature. Creative Commons is what they call it. If you do a search for Creative Commons images online, you'll be able to find a nice plethora of interesting images that you can use for your website. And then scrolling down to the bottom here on the blog post in particular, we've got this nice box for a call out, and this is his call out, his bio call out actually for Doug Soltis. And then of course you got nice buttons here that you can add his social media for Twitter, his direct email. And then, of course, this one does the website. But I think you can add LinkedIn or Facebook as well on that. And then, of course, the social sharing buttons you can share with on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Google+, as well as the print options and email options. So there's a nice area here that really takes care of a lot of elements that are really necessary to start your communications with your clients, with your prospects, rather. Here at the bottom also, we have a nice area for comments. And this is done with the Disqus, D-I-S-Q-U-S plugin. And that's one element that really is powerful, keeps all of your comments organized. And then, of course, at the bottom, we have a footer area that you can add more elements as you go along and develop your own website. And then let's not forget at the very, very top, We've got a nice area for the basic navigation, home, about Doug, events, speaking, podcasts, learn from Doug, and contact. Podcasts in particular is a nice setup. We've got the blog posts on the front, but what we've also done is we've organized this so that when the podcasts are done, they actually form a nice table. So here is the first one with the pilot. Then we'll have a second one and a third one. And there's a space for an episode number as well. We'll add that as we go along. But this will show all the continuous podcasts. And this actually is directly related to the category section. And so thinking about this now, what we'll probably want to do is take podcast and add an extra button here because that's a separate category. So add a podcast button here. They'll be able to click on that as well. Or go to the top and click on it. It'll both lead to the same place. It'll be a nice area that you can basically click on the episode you're looking for. Now the window will open up and you'll be able to listen to the podcast like so.
Season 1, Episode 1, the pilot.
So as you can see here, they have lots of options, including play in a new window for the podcast. And as we go along, we'll be adding more new features. But this is just a general overview, as well as I want to go back here to the dashboard real quick. Now, you've got this here as the main window. We've already logged into this site as far as the administration site. So essentially what I've done is I'm just showing you the login admin area as we go along here. So here we have a general dashboard, a lot of the basics here. I don't really usually spend too much time on the dashboard because there's lots of great features on the left here. Now there's some really good features here. There's more than probably you'll even use, to be honest with you. There's audios, books, events, links, and each one of these has a separate method of showing items and things that is different than a lot of other websites. And so you can use these at your leisure. Scroll through these and find out what each one of these does. For this episode right here, I think I want to be very general, and I don't want to take too much time here on this video. So really the main two areas you need to worry about, of course, are posts and scrolling down here and pages. Posts are where your blog posts and your podcasts are located, and pages, essentially by definition, are these pages right here. So everything across the top here, that will link directly to the pages, which is part of the navigation. And then your, like, for instance, as an example, the categories, sales, leadership, relationships, STP, and soon to be podcasting button here will all link to your posts. So on the left, once again, posts at the top, pages down lower here. I'll go into post real quick and we'll do a general overview of how a post is set up, especially since we have the podcast plugin set up. Now here we have Rock Solid Selling, the pilot. I'm going to click on the edit button right here. And here you can see some of the basic text that's in the podcast, in the blog post. In relation to the podcast, there's a little, what we call a short code called PowerPress. All right. All that does is that little short code right there says place the audio file here, or place the audio player here. Now, it just says PowerPress, so you may be asking, well, how does that know which episode? Glad you asked. So we scroll down here towards the bottom, and here you see a box called Podcast Episode. We'll click on Modify Existing Podcast, and here you see a long link. Now this link is a direct link to the MP3, which is the podcast we created, and it's actually hosted through Blueberry's media server. And we've got a link down there if you're interested in finding out more about the Blueberry hosting service. It's a really cheap, inexpensive way to host all of your podcasts. And let me explain that real quick. As far as podcasts are concerned, you generally don't want to host your media, namely video and audio, because they're very large files. You don't want to host them on your main website server. By default, most website servers aren't that large, because in fact, a website by itself without the heavy media is a pretty light site. Only, I doubt it would even get to a gigabyte worth of information. However, video and audio are very heavy, very large files that can get into the megabytes and sometimes the gigs very easily. So you want to have a secondary hosting service. We recommend the Blueberry hosting service over at blubrry.com, BLUBRRY.com, and there's a link below there if you want to find out more about it. So the plugin that comes with this WordPress, or it doesn't come with it rather, it's actually an add-on, but it's very easy to add on to it. The plugin actually is very simple. Once you upload your MP3 to the Blubrry hosting service, it gives you a link. You copy that link, paste it right in here, and auto-detect file size, auto-detect duration. It's pretty dead simple. Verify URL. Yep, and it gives you a little checkbox and says everything's good, so we verify. And it says media verified successfully. That means it's there and it's ready to go. That's all you've got to do. Then after that point, once you're done there, all you have to do is put this shortcode. Now, the great thing about it is you can put this PowerPress shortcode wherever you'd like on here. You can put it at the top, you can put it at the bottom. We want to have it generally at the top because what we call in the business is putting stuff below the fold, especially important stuff, is usually frowned upon. So you want to try and get all the important stuff above the fold so they don't have to scroll down below the fold, or scroll further down, in other words, to find out what they're really looking for, because that's the main reason they're on this page. So the other key here is this is a WordPress shortcode. Now you notice the difference here. The PowerPress shortcodes are done in those square brackets, whereas this is done, I call them the greater than or less than signs, but some people call them tag brackets. But nonetheless, they're the pointy brackets, if you will. And there's a more symbol. This is a WordPress shortcode that basically means when this is shown on the home page, it cuts off. So you see, this is actually a synopsis of the actual blog post. So in order to go to it, you've got to hit continue reading to read the entire blog post, which is here. So when you want to cut it short, because obviously you're not going to have a lot of room on the home page, you want just a snippet. You want to entice them to read more. So you put the more tag here, and that limits it until they get to the actual blog post page. So here in the box, general revisions. This is great because you can go back in and change anything you want. There's really, so one of the wonderful things about WordPress is the revisions. You can always go back. It's really hard to mess up. You really can't, as long as everything's set up properly, you really can't go wrong with this. Yoast SEO, another plugin I highly recommend if you're going to do this. This will keep track of your keywords, and then of course comments, and then podcast episodes that we just explained. So that takes care of the basics. The only other thing I want to show you here is two other areas. You get your categories. Now, since this is a podcast, we want to make sure we click the podcast button. Usually what I would do is I would only recommend that you check one of these categories. We made these categories beforehand because we knew that Doug Soltis was involved in all of these areas. So we made these individual categories specifically for his content. What happens if you end up checking more than one, what will happen is you'll get what's called duplicate content. You'll have pages that'll reflect this on several of your pages, and Google usually frowns upon duplicate content. So as a matter of keeping things simple, both for the readers or the users, as well as for Google's sake, you'll want to just check on one of them. So in this case, it's a podcast going to be exclusive to the podcast arena. Secondly, we've got featured images here at the bottom. As I explained before, it's a real easy way to show a nice large picture. Let's see. I just removed the picture just to show you what's going to happen here. So we set featured image. I've already uploaded the file, of course, so it's right here. And I've got a nice little description, a title, alternate text, and then set the featured image here. And it's in. And of course, last but not least, you want to hit update or publish in case it's a brand new one. And then there you go. All right, guys, this is just a brief overview so far of how this works. I'll get into the next episode, and we'll get into the specifics of the podcasts. This is Jim Edward Cadell with Tribe Coach, and we'll speak soon.